Okay, good morning, and I'm going to call to order the September 2nd, 2025 regular meeting with the Haywood County Board of Commissioners, and our first order of business will be our Pledge of Allegiance, and after that I'm going to ask our Sheriff Wilkie to come forward for the invocation.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please have a seat. Today's prayer comes from James chapter 1, verse 2. It says this: "Count it all joy, my brothers, when you meet trials of various kinds, for you know that the testing of your faith produces steadfastness. And let steadfastness have its full effect, that you may be perfect and complete, lacking in nothing." Yesterday, I had the great opportunity to go to the Canton Labor Day Festival. I ran into a former business owner in Canton who lost everything during the flood. His story is, while ordinary people I think would consider it tragic, is really remarkable in the way that he has recovered and come through that experience. He lost well in excess of $1 million in equipment and a business, and in trying to start again, the most remarkable thing about my observation of him was his attitude and his response and his reliance on his faith and how he had come through. And even with that amount of loss, his family was still there, still enjoying life, still steeped in their faith, and most importantly, still productive and important members of our community. That stands as an example of the scripture that I just read, and that steadfastness that will leave us lacking nothing when our faith is put into Christ, is put into our community, and is put into the things that matter. I would invite you to join me in prayer. Father, thank you for this day. Thank you for the opportunity to serve a great county, in a great state, and in a great country. Give us the strength and the courage to consider you first as we move forward, to consider those who have lost so much and who by all rights should have a complaint, but we hear none because their faith is ultimately in you. Let that be true for us. It is in Christ's name I pray today. Amen.
Thank you, Sheriff. Okay, we don't have a public hearing today. Our next order of business will be public comment session. I have one person who signed up to speak. If you would limit your comments to 3 minutes, and Amy will let you know when your time's up. The person I have signed up to speak is Vicki Rogers. Morning, Vicki.
Good morning, Commissioners. How are you? I'm here again a little bit to have a few things to say. I'm speaking against your Round 3 loan with the State Department of North Carolina for $998,885.37. I just want to know, what specifically is this money going for? You mentioned disaster relief, but I'm not real sure what you're talking about. So I hope there's more transparency in what this is all about. This is a big payment schedule that kind of blows your mind a little bit, fellas. I mean, and ladies, $100,000 the second year, $200,000, $400,000, $300,000, then $400,000. I mean, wow, it's a loan, and you're doing that with the state? They have money. They've got it in reserve funds. So that's my question to you today. And I might say that I received my tax reassessment, and so as a tax-paying citizen, which I will gladly do, that helps this county, I do want to know what this one's all about. I really am concerned about it. And I'll watch your television presentation later as I leave this meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Okay, I don't have anyone else signed up to speak this morning. We'll move on to constituent concerns. I do want to mention a couple of things here. Haywood County, in partnership with the towns of Canton, Clyde, Maggie Valley, and Waynesville, invites the community to join us in marking 1 year since Hurricane Helene impacted our region. Together, we will honor the lives lost, recognize the progress made, and express gratitude to the first responders, volunteers, and community partners who have played a vital role in recovery. The ceremony will be held on Saturday, September 27th, 2025, from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. on the steps of the historic Haywood County Courthouse. Be on the lookout in the coming weeks as we begin to promote this event online and in the paper. As we gather to mark this anniversary, we are reminded that Haywood County is more than a place. It is people standing shoulder to shoulder, neighbors helping neighbors, and communities lifting each other up. This milestone is not only about looking back on the challenges we've endured, but also celebrating the spirit of hope, kindness, and strength that carries us forward together. So if everybody would make note of that. And also, I think Representative Pless was here this morning. Did you want to make some comments, Mark? Yeah.
Good morning, Commissioners. Thank you for the time to spend here. This is kind of a remarkable event today. As most of you remember, in 2021, when I first went down there, they finally let us go home in March of 22. We were supposed to be gone in July. 2023, they let us go home in October. We have a new speaker. He let us go home in July. So finally, we're back to kind of a schedule that we're looking at. The problem, and this is what I want to talk to all of you about, is kind of some of the things that were left undone before we left. A lot of folks don't understand how the process works. But the biggest concern most people have is the budget. We have a continuing resolution. Nothing changes. We continue to do business. What we don't do is new things. We don't go in and take on a new task. We don't give raises to state employees, teachers, or any of the entities that we control. We also had some projects that were running, and as you know, we did a short budget, just a small one just a few weeks ago before we went home, and that's what that was primarily for, is we're building things all across the state of North Carolina that belong to North Carolina, and we needed funding to continue the next step. So when we did the mini budget, a lot of folks wanted us to put a lot of things in it, and we got a lot of requests, but we couldn't because we still don't know what the budget process looks like. As you know, the big beautiful bill got put out in July, right before we were supposed to do this. They're evaluating it, still trying to figure out how that impacts North Carolina, and even though most of it's not supposed to take effect for a couple of years, you can't really go down a path and commit the state of North Carolina to things if we're going to have to change those. So that threw a monkey wrench in it, and that resulted in the mini budget that you saw us do a few weeks ago. One of the problems that we're going to run across is folks want us to go ahead and send the money out, because if you look at the Treasury, we have a lot of money in the bank, but I'm sure you understand this is one-time money. We have a very limited amount of recurring funding. So we have to be very cautious as to what we commit the state of North Carolina to that's going to require it. Right now, the hot topic is Medicaid. We sent $600 million recurring to DHHS to cover what they said they needed until next spring when we go back in session. Now you see on the news, they're talking about how we're having to cut services, we're having to do all these other things. That's not necessary. The problem is they want to use it as a political weapon to say, hey, they're going to cut funding for Medicaid because we're rolling into the primary season and we're rolling into the general election next year. So the governor's office is playing a game that, quite frankly, they don't have to play. They have adequate funding in the $600 million to get them through until we get back into session. And you're very fortunate to have Bryant here as far as controlling the budget. He keeps an eye on everything, and he keeps you very well informed on where you are as a county, and he keeps the county very healthy. We have a lot of budget chairs, and that's exactly what they do, both in the House and in the Senate. They try to keep North Carolina as healthy as we possibly can. There's not a way for us to commit, I think the last number I got was $319 million to appease the governor when they can continue operations. I've spoke to several people, and they've reached out to me about the compensation rates for Medicaid providers. And I have tried to assure them that there's not a path for us to address this because we really don't know what our budget's going to look like. We know how much recurring money that they tell us we're going to have. It's not nearly enough to do what we need to do. So with that, Bryant knows that sometimes when you have priorities and you have things you have to do, you have to make cuts in other areas. And that's probably where we're going to end up. In order to fund that Medicaid expansion, or not expansion, that other $319 million, we're going to have to find money that is recurring. If you look at it, we've got, I think the last count I had was $3.8 billion sitting in the rainy day fund. Everybody wants us to take that. Well, that would be great for 1 year. That's not going to help us when we roll back into budget in 27. We have to find something that the state of North Carolina needs to do differently, quite frankly, in order for us to be able to fund everything that we're there. Everyone wants raises, everyone wants projects, everyone wants to expand staff. Everybody wants and needs a lot of things across the state of North Carolina, but the pool of recurring funding is a lot smaller than that. So that's kind of where we are, and as you hear about it, I mean, you can direct anybody that contacts you to me. I'll be glad to address it. That's kind of what I do regularly on a daily basis. And I try to make them understand that it's not that we don't want to do it. It's just we're not in a position right now that we can just pull that money out and throw it at something in hopes that it gets better later on. The other thing, and I've talked to a couple of you about the Healthy Opportunities pilot. And I was speaking to Ira Dove about it a few minutes ago. And one of the things that you probably need to understand with the Healthy Opportunities pilot is our area, I have had no complaints of how it was administered. I've had 0 complaints on what has happened. The problem is DHHS wouldn't come to our budget chairs and say, hey, this is what we're doing with this money. They wouldn't say, hey, we're providing a service to people, even though they were asked in January to start talking to the chairs so that we could find the funding. It was in neither the Senate budget nor in the House budget because they wouldn't tell what it was. Until everyone started realizing that it was going away, no one said anything. Then they got the people to reach out to us, and unfortunately we found out why they may not have done that was there's things happening on the other end of the state with that funding that may or may not be what it's intended for. It may not be government's role. And one of those examples, there was an organization that was taking folks to get their hair done because they didn't have transportation. But they were paying a caregiver to go pick them up, to take them to have this done. They were picking them up and taking them to purchase groceries instead of taking them. Everything I understand here is it provides food boxes and it provides some other things, but it's more of a way to where someone could deliver it if that's necessary. But for the most part, you go out and you get it and then you take it back. Well, that wasn't happening across the state of North Carolina. So that's the only reason we can figure DHHS did not approach us at the state level and say, hey, this is what we're doing. This is a list of the good things, because they didn't want it in writing what was really happening with this funding. They also make it out that about $90 million is kind of what we're losing to draw down this huge amount of federal money. It was costing the state of North Carolina over $180 million to maintain this pilot. And that's important that you understand. A pilot is something that you try. If it doesn't work, you don't necessarily continue it. This didn't work. So the budget chairs, because of the limited amount of money we had, they chose to not fund that anymore. They chose that, okay, we're not in a place to do this. They've extended the branch again to DHHS and said, hey, come and tell us what you're doing. Come and sell us that you can provide this. We want to see what you're doing. And they still haven't done it, to my knowledge. As of 3 weeks ago or 4 weeks ago when we were in Raleigh, they still haven't come and told us this is what was happening with it. So even though we have the money to fund it, we don't have a process that's going to make sure that they're in a position that we want them in. And that's what it ultimately boils down to, is how do we best use the taxpayers' money? And I don't think the taxpayers in my district would appreciate how it was being used in some other areas. So I agree with our budget chairs 100%. But if people reach out, and like I say, they've reached out to me, if they reach out and you want me to answer their questions or whatever, feel free, put them in contact with me. I'll be glad to talk to them. I want to talk a little bit about the flood and stuff. I know everyone wants things done immediately, and I'm right there. I'm 100% with them. But I want to tell you kind of some of the things that are going on. I know the county didn't sustain a whole lot as far as what you own, fortunately. Your buildings weren't damaged like some of the municipal buildings. Talked to Maggie Valley yesterday, and it looks like they're going to have about a 4.7 deficit of what it's going to cost for them to repair their facilities and things that got damaged from the flood. So we initially did a loan, and I found out whenever I was talking to some folks from Raleigh with Bryant and Kevin, I found out that we were spending money, putting money out there without the greatest of interest rates. Because the way it's always been set up is we want to close out disaster relief in 7 years. That's the longest we want it to go. We don't want to have to go back and reclaim the funding. So we have, say, $100 million sitting out there. We may or may not know where it's at in the process, but we want that to revert back to the state of North Carolina in 7 years. Or if we need it before then, we can go get it. So that was the pretense behind the first set of loans that we did, was we did it like we always do to local government. We set it up to where you could go get the money and pay it back. Our intent is going to be to help everyone that takes those loans and just take care of the loans. We don't know where we're at financially, so we can't say that's exactly how it's going to happen, but that was the intent behind setting those loans up. Well, then we found out everybody applied for them. They didn't like the terms. And it was like, okay, so you see on the governor's website, all of these people have applied, but the money's not really moving a whole lot. There was a few people took it, but for the most part, nobody really wanted it because of that. So we went in one of the Helene bills this year, and we changed that. And we found another program. And this is what I found out from talking to Bryant and Kevin. We found another program that was going to be great. It's going to stretch you out over 20 years. That gives us enough time to compensate, gives us an idea, but then third year, I believe it was, in the interest level shoots way up to where it's unrealistic. We were using a process that is already in place. We didn't create anything new to try to help local government because we wanted to hurry up and get money out there. At some point, I would love for us to go in, and part of our recovery efforts will be to change some of the things of how we do business in North Carolina, but I want us to go in and address that part of it. If we're going to help you, we really need to give you an opportunity to get your feet under you before we start doing anything. If you choose to take a loan, we need to figure out how we're going to bring all that back to the state if it's not something that we can pay for. So what I've told, I went and met with Madison County a few weeks ago, and they have some needs and some things that they wish that they would be able to cover. Give me a list if there's something that you all are doing. We've gotten through to where we have funded a lot of projects as far as unmet needs and other revenues that the local governments can go tap to without having to talk to us. That's the easiest way for you to be able to pay for things that you're doing, if you're in a place to where you can do it, and not everybody is in that place right now. If you can't do that, let me know so I can start working on a direct appropriation. The easiest thing for me to do is find money somewhere that's already sitting out there. The hardest thing for me to do is get money directly appropriated to someone for a project. So it doesn't mean we're not going to be able to do it, but I would prefer, if it doesn't meet any of the categories we have now, that you tell me so that I can start working on it. Being on a vice chair on the committee, we're going to start meeting again and discussing what we're going to do in the next round. And I think government-wise, we're healthy. I think residents-wise, they're starting to build houses finally after a lot of pushback from us. Private roads and bridges, we'll talk about in a minute, but I think we're going to be in a position to where we're at, we can get you some money if the county needs a direct appropriation, or if you hear of one of these towns that need a direct appropriation. Most of them don't reach out and say anything. They just kind of paddle their own boat. That's why Canton has gotten all the stuff. Everybody's met Zeb in this room. You know that he's not shy. If he needs $10, he's going to pick up the phone and say, hey, I need $10. I don't care where it comes from, but I need $10 because we don't have it. That's kind of what we need these towns to do, and that's what we need the counties to do. If you need help, tell us what you need so that we can start talking. I was telling some folks on the float yesterday, the Helene bill that we did, I think it came out in March. We spent 22 hours over 3 days having conversations. And that was everything from our budget chairs to the House and the Senate together. It took hours and hours and hours. There was 3 days there. We didn't leave the legislature till almost 11 o'clock every night because that's when it gets done. We have to conduct the rest of our business during the course of the day. But if we're going to fight for stuff, that fight comes inside that room. And I'm fortunate enough to be in the room to help fight for what we need here. But that's where we're going to win. When it rolls out and it becomes a bill, there's not a whole lot of movement because most everything has been agreed to on what we're going to do and what we're not going to do. So urge everybody that has a need to let us know. And it doesn't matter how large or how small. I could care less what the size is. My thing is, because of Tropical Storm Fred and because of pushing Madison County, both of my counties are in a better place than a lot of these other counties. That's why the last time there was money that went to Madison County, money that went to Canton, is because folks are ready. They're ready to move forward because unfortunately we have been through this before. So we kind of know what needs to happen. A lot of these counties don't know what to ask for. And we ask each and every one of the representatives that was in the room, okay, what do your counties need? The counties aren't in that place yet. They have been working and trying to run the counties, trying to recover from the floods, and they just do not have a path forward at this point. So eventually we're going to get to it where we're going to hopefully start making some large amounts that are going to be going to people. So I want to get ours in first. I do look out for Haywood and Madison County first. So I want to be able to get what we're going to get before everybody else comes to the table and asks for money. Private roads and bridges, it looks like they're going to be January, even on the reimbursement. And this is kind of a sore spot. We have people that went out and they borrowed money that have loans coming due because the storm happened and they needed to get something done in October, November. So they went ahead and built their roads back. But from what I'm being told from NC Grow, and I had some of those folks up here with me a few weeks ago talking to one property owner, they're telling me it's going to be January before they can even think about doing reimbursements. And that's not acceptable to me. And we're still pushing. We're going to do some oversight stuff at the end of next month, and I'm hoping to prod them along. The last time I hit them pretty hard about housing, and they completed the first one over in Fletcher last week. So hopefully I can hit them hard enough on reimbursement to where they'll actually get the money out within a matter of weeks. But they're telling us that the reimbursements even, that they're not in a process to where they can hand that out. Now, this gentleman here, he borrowed the money, he has all the pictures, he built the bridge, the work's done, he's been using it. How hard is it to take a few pictures, how much the receipt was for it, and hand you the money that we're going to hand you, which is half of what it cost? FEMA's working on it, and he seems to think FEMA's going to have him taken care of by the time his loan is due. But that's really a sore spot because we're hearing that from everybody is, oh, we can't give you the money back because we don't have the process in place yet to be able to do that. New construction, they have some contractors, emergency management's handling that. They're starting the process. They originally told me it was going to be the first of the year before they could think about it, but I think they've sped that up a little bit to where I hear they're starting to do a little bit here and a little bit there. I don't think they have a full steam rolling ahead, but they are moving forward. So some of these folks that have contacted you about private roads and bridges that need them constructed, hopefully they're going to hear back sometime in the next little while. That's what's going on. They haven't given us a number on how many he's asking, so we really don't know if we've got enough money in it or if we're going to have to put more money in it. But by the time we get back in the spring, I think we'll have a pretty good idea of how much the total damage is. They said they've done a lot of site assessments and they've looked to see estimates so that they know about what it's going to take for them to do it. So hopefully we're moving forward. So if you have people reach out, tell them we're trying. I know they're going to be in a place this year that they were in last year. And that's not acceptable, but my job as the legislature is to send the money. It's the governor's office. It's his responsibility to get it to where it needs to go and to make these processes move forward. And that's kind of what I wanted to bring you up to date on since I don't get to see all of you at once. So I'll open any questions or anything that you've got that's burning that you want to know. I'll try to answer it.
Well, first of all, I'd like to thank State Legislature Representative Pless for being here today. It is kind of rare for a sitting state representative to come to a commissioners meeting across the state. So I would like to thank you for being here. So thank you for appearing. And I'm jumping a little bit ahead in our agenda, but since you're here, this loan that the constituent spoke about, actually speaking to her, I understand she'll be watching the video. We are transparent. We allow residents to exercise their right like you did and speak in 3 minutes. There's nothing done behind closed doors or nefarious. I saw this on the agenda. I had questioned it, and I've spoken to the county manager about it. But this item 3 on our agenda coming later, is about this round 3 loan for $998,000. Could you speak on that?
I'm not familiar with what the loan is. If you want to tell me a little bit about it, I'll.
Sure. This is, for lack of a better way, the bridge loan that we were talking about the last time we got together with when Grow NC was here.
Okay.
So, Commissioner Long, the state set up this loan program, and I think 2 different rounds of it have been released, and we've passed at each time because what we were eligible for was not really that much money, and then the terms of the loan were sort of high. So some things have been changed around. We're actually eligible for more, almost $1 million on the agenda today. Of course, it can be used for Helene recovery, but in the back of our mind, we're hoping, like Representative Pless touched on it earlier, the intent is maybe that the state forgives this money. So we wanted to make sure we were in line for this money once the number got close to $1 million, because we actually do have needs. Debris has been our biggest outfall of cash, and we're waiting on that reimbursement. So having this $1 million in our back pocket is helpful. If the General Assembly is unable to forgive this as a loan, then we have the cash to pay back. But we felt like it was a good opportunity to get some money towards recovery. And one other thing I'd mention, I don't have direct experience with this, but I know the town of Waynesville received a bridge loan, and they got extra points on a grant application related to recovery because they've demonstrated a need by taking that bridge loan. So as we are gearing up our applications, we're hoping that we get extra points by having taken this loan. Christian will actually present the item. She may have details that I've glossed over.
So in a nutshell, you feel like the risk is worth the reward?
The juice is worth the squeeze. I think hopefully we can get that $1 million forgiven, but if not, we'll stick to the terms of the repayment for sure.
There is a path forward. I don't know what all the projects are. I haven't seen what you were doing. If there's a path forward, you can give me the projects. We can start the conversation at the next committee meeting, because there is going to be some direct, unless something goes wrong, there's going to be some direct appropriations, and we can do it. Direct appropriation for reimbursement is the only language we have to change. So it would have to be a single item to encompass every one of those, but we could send it to you if I can get it, and then you could pay the loan back, and then it just goes away. Is there a time limit on that loan that requires you to keep it? I know some of the ones you did when I was here, there was a time limit.
I'll have to defer to Christian. I'm not sure. Most of those loans that we from the banks, they do have a prepayment period, but I'm not sure about this one. I'm sorry.
Christian, you want to come down and make comments on it? That'd be fine. We're a little bit out of order, but
Yeah.
it all pertains. We'll get to it.
There is no prepayment penalty. The loan has to be paid in full by June 30th, 2030. Also, this is 0% interest, so we're not paying any interest. I know the payment schedule is kind of causing some issues because it's $1 on June 30th, on the loan anniversary date, and then the next payment is June 30th of the next year, and it's a percentage of the balance. It's 0 interest across the board. We have roughly about $16 million tied up in debris, so this is, for lack of a better term, a bridge loan just to keep that cash flow going, and it can be used for any sort of disaster-related costs or to just carry us until we get that FEMA reimbursement. The problem with the first 2 rounds of this loan that they offered, in that paperwork, it said if you get a reimbursement from FEMA, you basically have about 5 days to turn that money back to the state. This round does not have that in there as long as it's paid off by June 30th, 2030, unless it's forgiven, which is not in the paperwork, but I know that was the intent.
Thank you, Christian. I think for the constituent and for everyone's information, I think that term bridge, I think Christian made that very clear. That's funds to kind of bridge us between when we actually need to help our residents with the work and when the FEMA reimbursement gets here. And so I think that was a very good explanation. One other thing, Mr. Pless, and I again appreciate you being here today. You were a sitting commissioner, and you know the battle that we all face here with unfunded mandates from Raleigh. There seems to be a tendency for Raleigh to be disconnected from the county level. And the unfunded mandates which you fought, we fight continually as sitting commissioners, is that the state legislature, Raleigh, just says, well, just let the county handle it. They tell us to do things, mandate us to provide services, mandate us to do things, and then don't send any money with it. And so as a sitting commissioner, you know that battle. You know the battle we face. And with this Medicaid conversation, I was in meetings with the NCACC, and there is a general thinking that, and by the way, I will say, let me preface what I'm about to say.
Okay.
North Carolina is one of the last states in the union to do this. We have experience without the Medicaid funding. There's been no discussion that I've been in with stepping back down the steps that you stepped up. And again, I know how critical Medicaid funding is for our rural hospitals. I'm not advocating to completely throw the baby out with the bathwater, okay? Especially poor counties, Tier 1, you know, you can go down the gamut, Tier 1, Tier 2, Tier 3, whatever. When you fall into the category of a poor county, rural county hospitals, rural clinics have really suffered as far as health care for our people. This expansion helped that. But I can't understand why North Carolina's leaders haven't said, well, you know, it hasn't been that long ago that we didn't have the expansion. We know how to step down completely to wipe it out. That hasn't been discussed, and I'm not advocating for that, but it was interesting to me that no one discussed that. But as far as the funding, you know, you want to trim fat, we all do. We have to do in our private budgets. But as far as the unfunded mandates and kicking stuff back to the county, there has been talk about the legislature kicking back more of the funding. Instead of a 50-50 split, maybe a 75-25, 75 to counties, 25 from the state. I want to let you know I'm against that. You know, we work on a shoestring budget. We try to provide the best services we can and keep our tax rate down the best we can. And we don't need the state being disconnected from Haywood County and saying, oh, you pay for it. You got plenty of money. Pass it back to your county taxpayers. That's baloney. From where I'm sitting, no way. Count me out, okay? And I know that you know what I'm talking about because you sit in this chair right here where Commissioner Best is sitting. And so again, I just want to double down on that as you being our representative, that hey, you want to, I mean, I understand totally. But we want to operate the best we can, the most efficient way we can for our constituents. And that's not having stuff thrust on us that we didn't ask for.
And I think the easiest way to explain that is I think a lot of what you're hearing is DHHS is maneuvering to attempt to maintain the level of services that they're playing. There's no discussion in the legislature about passing it to you. The budget chairs and all the people that are sitting there, there's a large portion of us that are down there that are former commissioners, and we understand that 100%. There's no discussion among us to pass it down to you. We haven't seen anything in writing from DHHS because they're still trying to get their head around exactly where they are and what they're going to end up doing. So I think what you're hearing, I wouldn't pay a lot of attention to it. If you hear that they're proposing something, I need to know about it because chances are they won't tell me until it's already through the process and it is in a conversation within our caucus. That's when I'll hear about it, and that's when we get the opportunity to kill it or to change it or to just say, okay, there's not enough of us supporting it. But I need to know about it ahead of time because that's how I can rally support. We kept a lot of bills that were introduced this year off the floor just simply because of that. Some of it was reg reform, some of it was some other issues that were going to cost financially, and we were able to move some of those things by just not hearing them at all. Even though it was a good idea, it just wasn't a good time, and it doesn't paint a good picture for what we're trying to do, because we try to work with the counties and we try to work with the cities in as much as we can, but ultimately we have to make the best decision we can. The services, as far as dialing it back, I would love to say that it's simple. We have even, some of us that are out there have contemplated, maybe we just do away with the dental portion of it. The problem with that is, and most people don't realize this, is you already have folks that are low income or no income, very slow.
Right.
Dental work left untreated causes all kinds of heart issues. It causes bacteria to attack the valves within the heart. It causes people to have concerns and issues, even as a young person. So if we dialed it back, there's people out there that wouldn't get any care whatsoever. So it's not really, in my opinion, it's not a good idea to dial back the service, even though we can't see the fruits of it. We would have to have catastrophe after catastrophe involving people's health for that to come out, and then we would end up adding it back. So to me, it's not worth taking the dental out because of the risk. And the other side of that is there's a lot of folks that use the vision portion of it that drive. So if you go to the DMV and you can't pass an eye test, but you can't afford to go to the eye doctor and you can't afford to get some glasses, now we've put someone else off that is able to manage and take care of some of their own affairs, and maybe they have a family that can help them, or maybe they don't. So I think for some people, those two are the ones that really stuck out when we were talking about some of the things that we pay for. And, after I evaluated it and looked at it, I'm like, if we make any cuts whatsoever, we're going to change people's lives. And we're not going to be able to do this with a clean heart, because unfortunately it's been there for years. It was done under Democrat control years ago, and I don't see that we're going to dial it back at all, unfortunately. As far as stepping back, like the Medicaid expansion and things like that, if the federal government changes, Medicaid expansion will have to be renegotiated, or it will terminate at the end of the year. So with this bill that came out, if they determine that we're going to pay more than the 90-10, or the hospitals, they're the ones who pay that 10% now through a bed tax. So if they come back and they say, well, we can't afford to pay that anymore, you're going to have to pick it up, then we have to work on it, which means it terminates at the end of the calendar or at the end of the biennium, and then we don't fund it anymore unless we reach another agreement. So that'll be another one of those fights that we'll have to have as far as how far can we go, what can we afford, what should we do, what shouldn't we do. But depending on what happens in the next year and a half, it may be dialed back anyway. We don't know the answer to any of that yet. It's way too early to see where we are on that bill. It's about almost 2 months since we've seen it. So we're gonna have a lot of evaluation and a lot of things, a lot of hard decisions to make over the next few years.
Well, I think as far as anybody that's watching or anybody that's here, I think this is a great lesson in government today. They pass laws at the federal level, pass a budget in Congress. It comes down to Raleigh, and here we are back at the county level, dealing with issues that go full circle in elected government. And so, again, appreciate you being here. One other statement. I talked with the state auditor, Mr. Dave Bollick, and he assured me that he was going to get this DMV problem fixed. They've been auditing things, and of course, I, myself, and you, and I'm sure others here have had calls about people, and you brought up the work situation. Somebody can't see, they can't drive, they can't get to work. We need people to go to work. And so here we have people at the DMV going up there and spending half the day and getting up there, and they close. There's such a bottleneck with getting real ID and getting their license renewed. And so he's personally taking that on to hire more employees to expedite the situation. So I guess as a county resident, as a commissioner, speaking to my legislator, if there's any way that you can work with him to try to get our folks a little bit more service at the DMV, we've got kids that don't have a driver's license that could be working. I mean, I've run into that more recently than I've ever ran into. It's just not worth the hassle, and that's a shame that we got people that can't get service at the local
I wish him well.
Yeah.
I hope he does. Myself, Representative Gillespie, and Clampett, when Goodwin was the commissioner, We had conversation after conversation from the time I took office because it started with COVID. And in the time that I've been there, 5 years, we have been unsuccessful in getting anything accomplished to a permanent basis. And a little bit of the backstory as to why we are where we are is Cooper's trying to rewrite his legacy. Okay, he owns DMV 150%. He's the only one responsible. COVID hit, he stopped their training. He wouldn't allow people to train. They wouldn't hire anybody. They closed down every other office to where people were having to go to other counties. They did social distancing. They did all these things. They wouldn't allow folks in. When he did that, you had people retiring, people that got fed up and found a better paying job because the state's not the greatest place to work. They didn't have anybody to replace them with. So coming out of COVID, they decided, oh, okay, well, everything is fine now. That's why you see one examiner or two examiners in a lot of these counties that should have 4. We're fortunate right now in Haywood, we have several people here, and they tell me we have no full-time openings. We have some part-time that people could work. But in Madison County, there's only one person, and there's only room in that office for one person. They could maybe squeeze somebody else in later, but now you have people that have been put off. We suspended the driver's license portion of it during COVID because people couldn't get there. Well, we just had to do it again for 2 more years because people can't get there. We pushed the renewal to 12 years, which is against federal law, and we may or may not get away with it. They may come back and say, absolutely not, you're not going to do that. We're still waiting. But we pushed 12 years to where we could alleviate some of this. We just gave them 40 positions. And those 40 positions are to fill in and open up on weekends, later shifts in the afternoon to get more people in these places like here at least 2 or 3 days a week. We don't know where those 40 positions are going to go, but so far they have been unsuccessful. And Stein hasn't proved that he's any better at running DMV. He chose the new commissioner, so he's not showed that this is of interest to him. So until the governor's office, which is ultimately responsible for them, there's not anything we can do. He appointed the director, the commissioner that's running it. He oversees it. It's just not a priority for him at this point. So until it reaches priority level, we're not going to have new offices. I personally think that we should have some of the large offices like they have in Raleigh, to where you go in, you pick a number, and there's 12 or 15 people in there, to where we don't have to have that here, but we need one in Western North Carolina, and we need one on the other side of Asheville so that people can go and walk in and get service. That's how it happens down there. Now, it's not always convenient because there are lines down there as well, because the backlog has caught up. 5 years from COVID, the backlog has caught up, and we have so many people that are conflicted with how they're going to get their license. I have a CDL, so I have to maintain the medical card of it. Right now, there are delays in getting the medical cards certified because it has to come from the feds down to the state until you get your medical card. And I've had numerous people call me that do this for a living, that use their CDLs, and they're like, look, I'm going to get a ticket right now because of that. We can't get them through the process because they're waiting on the feds to send it to us, but they got to have somebody in Raleigh to process it when it gets to us. And that's the whole problem, is they just don't have enough people. So I understand where you're at, and I would love to. And if you have someone who has a travel or someone who has a dire need that they have to have it, if they'll reach out to us, a lot of times I've been able to get them an appointment within a few weeks. It won't be in Haywood County. It may not be in Asheville. They may have to drive over to Madison County or Jackson County, but they'll find an opening somewhere for them if they have a dire need. I had a preacher that travels all the time, and he was fixing to get on a plane, and we had to get him an emergency appointment so that he could actually get on a plane because he wasn't going to be able to go preach one of his ministry revivals. So there's a lot of things that we need to get accomplished. I can deal with it piecemeal, but there is no solution moving forward. We gave them everything that supposedly is going to fix them, but they're going to have to train people and get them out here, and I'm to understand it's several week training program that they have to go through before they can put them in these offices.
Well, thank you for that. I know
I'm full of good news, ain't I?
some of these other folks may have questions for you, but last meeting we had a very short agenda, and the county attorney and I really tried to spice it up and stretch it out. We did our best, but I guess you being here today really helped us out. So, yeah, thank you, Mr. Pless.
Anybody else having?
I do appreciate you coming and giving us some insight. You know, all of these things affect us, everybody in the county, on a regular basis. Mm-hmm. And we do talk a lot about unfunded mandates, and we have a responsibility. I say we see our constituents in the frozen food section of the grocery store. Mm-hmm. And so I feel like we're the face behind everything that happens at the state and the federal level. But I can tell you this DMV problem really impacts, I don't want to say everybody, but more people than some of our other issues do. And it seems kind of fundamental to me, and I guess I'm preaching to the wrong person, but I have 2 family members that traveled out of county and were able to finally wait out the appointment schedule. And then also had a situation with a federal motor carrier with the, I guess, the medical exam and the federal motor carrier talking to one another and the state to get the CDL renewed. And like I said, that comes back to people's livelihood. I mean, that's their income. And so I have to agree that I'm really dissatisfied with how that's being handled. To me, that seems very elementary.
I agree 100%. I do. And if people tell you, blame it on me, tell them it's my fault, I'm just going to tell them that it's the governor's fault.
But blaming it on somebody doesn't fix the problem. I mean, we really need to look at that. It seems like of all the things that we deal with, disaster relief and debris removal, and what do we do when we remove the debris, and how do we take care of people's health problems? I mean, we've all been to the driver's license exam, and it takes us 5 minutes when we finally get in there. So, again, it seems pretty elementary.
It does, and it comes back, it's always going to 150% of the time be a leadership issue, because if you don't have a leader that is managing that, and that is their constitutional authority, that belongs to the governor. You can throw money at it all day long. We could give them $3.8 billion and tell them, go hire people. It's not going to solve the problem because it's an administrative issue. Plus, they're using an archaic program to try to use the green screens and the things that they try to do to renew licenses. They need a state-of-the-art program, and we've spent millions and millions just since I've been down there working on state government's computer system, but every time we have tried to move it to some other platform, it won't it's not compatible with everything that we do, and it would cost tenfold what it does to maintain it. So we're kind of stuck at that point. At some point, I think they're going to have to choose a platform that's going to help us. Now, they did put kiosks down east to where if everything is in order, you've not had any issues whatsoever, in some of those malls, you can go in and you can renew your license and you're just fine. But how many people fit into that category? How many people know how to do that?
Right.
They haven't told us how
that it's
successful it
available.
was. I'm sorry, do what?
Even know that it's available.
Yes. Well, they've done a good job of advertising down there and telling people you can go to the mall and do it, but how many people know enough to be able to sit down and do it? The online registration, I think we're probably going to move that, if we haven't already, to where they're going to be able to renew online again, but that's a federal issue. So even if we try to move that, the federal government is the one that says that you have to be in front of somebody every other examination cycle so that they can verify who you are. So we're challenged by federal law in some situations, and in some of them they haven't gotten to us yet, but I'm sure they eventually will.
I know I was in a meeting following Hurricane Helene, and we had representatives from local, state, and the federal government. And it was interesting to watch that dynamic play out, because the feds would say, hey, we can do whatever their path forward was, and the state says, well, that would work, but we have this rule or regulation or something that would impede that idea. And then, but what we could do is this idea, and then come to the county or vice versa in that story. And there was so much overlap and bureaucracy that it was really hard to get a way forward with a natural disaster. And then you think, we require everybody to have a license if you're going to operate a motor vehicle. We require you to have insurance. And I appreciate the fact that you've extended it, but if you travel out of the state, I don't know that that's going to be welcomed if, the Tennessee Highway Patrol wants to have a conversation with you, or the Iowa Highway Patrol. I don't know that they're going to care that the governor or the legislature can't get their act together. So,
well, fortunately, I have several friends that are troopers, and another state can't write you an expired license. They can't write you an expired tag. Whichever state your residence is in, unless you have changed your residency to that state within the last 30 days, they can't write you a citation for that. They may not like the fact that it's done, but where it inhibits is if you need to go to an event or you need to get on a plane or you need to do things like that. If it's not in date, they just deny access. So yes, it is a problem, but we didn't fix the problem. We just gave them 2 more years on a problem that is continually growing, is really all we did. We just made it to where the people didn't suffer by getting a ticket for an expired license for another 2 years. We didn't solve getting them through DMV and getting them renewed. The governor and Commissioner Tyne's going to have to do that. So, I know. I understand 100%. Like I say, always just blame it on me and tell them to come talk to me, and I'll try to help them as best I can to get into an office somewhere. But even at that, that's a challenge because everybody needs services and everybody needs stuff done.
We appreciate you coming.
Thank you.
It's good to hear it from the state level directly.
Thank you.
I guess I couldn't say it no better than my 2 fellow commissioners, but ditto on what they've said. And lastly, just to thank you for coming and updating us, giving us the information, and giving us the opportunity to vent a little bit on what we hear on a daily basis. And I know you, Mark, well enough to know that you're out and about and you hear it too. So thank you for coming and being available. I don't remember any other state legislator that's come to one of our meetings and give us an update like this, so we appreciate you and appreciate what you do.
Thank you.
Yep. Okay, all right.
All right, I appreciate your time, and like I say, just if you need something, you know how to get a hold of me, send me a message, and hopefully I'll be able to say yes, but more times than not anymore, these conflicting issues, it ends up being, I'm sorry, I can't do anything about it, but we'll at least talk about it. All right, thank you.
Okay, appreciate it. Okay, does anybody have any other constituent concerns? Okay, we'll move on to administrative agency reports and presentations, but we do not have any.
I've got one thing, Mr. Chairman. The personal property cleanup, Brian, that's starting. I've had some constituents call and talk about some of the contractors possibly, they're coming on small creeks and surveying pickup stuff. And I told the fellow that called me the other day, and I said, well, I can only imagine this is the personal property phase of it because they're a long way from the river, and it's a very small tributary. So is that, can you speak to that? Is that?
Yeah, that's under the state program, the PPDR, the private property debris removal. Yeah, that's currently underway. And we shifted to that state SMART program where it's the state-centered program, so they're handling most of that for us. But it's underway. It's moving slow, and the stream debris has slowed down too because they're waiting to get sites approved through the proper channels with the state and FEMA. But it's underway, but I don't have any. I don't have a date that we will be wrapped up with private property debris removal. The last numbers that I had were only a few dozen, maybe less than 50 folks that actually had applied for the PPDR program.
I just brought that up publicly because these folks have like fluorescent vests on and they're cruising areas, and that started. So
yes.
It's kind of was alarming to this fella. So anyway, I just wanted to put that out there that that's going on, and they were trying to get rights to get in there and clean up and so on and so forth. So that's continually going on. And you mentioned the stream debris removal cleanup. There's some a large site near Canton that's basically looks like it's in the process of folding up, and that has ratcheted down as far as the activity surrounding the stream cleanup. So I'm glad you brought that up.
You're talking about the 110 debris site. I'm not sure if it's I'm not sure if it's ratcheting down like they are trying to demobilize that site. I haven't heard that, but we can certainly check in with the state about the use of that site for sure.
Well, maybe the debris flows just slowed down to the point to where they've caught up.
I think that may have something to do with it. Is just the debris flows just slow down. Yeah.
And that's a good thing. Hopefully we're getting there, you know, slowly.
I think everybody would like to see it move a little faster, but
Well,
yes,
so-
sir.
Okay.
Brian, on that, didn't the state switch to the small streams now? Hadn't they got the big waters held up and they're doing the small streams now?
I'm not sure all of the major streams are completed yet. That if they're working on some smaller streams, that might be the case as it's really about the approval process. And remember, our debris monitor folks go out, they take pictures of the site, do their analysis, and then push it to get approval. And then it goes to FEMA and then back to the state to get picked up. So I'm not sure if the major streams are finished or they're just working on other approvals and they're working on smaller streams while they're doing that so there's not downtime.
Yeah, it's my understanding, I was talking to some of the guys, and they said that they'd switched to the smaller streams and they got them on hold on the big waters, because there's one place between up there where you cut off, oh heck, what's that across from Dick Street right there? Max Thompson, there's one area that hadn't been touched down through there, I think, yet, on the big water. And then from what they was telling me, that they'd switched them over to the small streams right now.
I think that's just so that they don't have crews with downtime waiting on those approvals.
Okay. I don't have a discussion, or does anybody have a discussion or adjustment to the agenda? Okay, we'll move on to consent agenda. We have the items on there, and we talked about item 3. We have 5 items on the consent agenda. Did anybody have any other questions on any of that?
On that item 3 there, just talking about, there's no way that if we don't use that money, there's no way we can lose on it because there's no interest on it. Am I correct in saying that? So I mean, there's no way, just so the people will know that there's no way that we can possibly lose on that. If we pay it back, we're paying it back the exact same amount.
Correct.
I just want to make that clear for the people to know that we're not going to be paying no interest or losing any money on it.
This is not a payday loan or anything like that. It's with the state, and we feel the terms are appropriate. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, so I'll entertain a motion, we approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, any other discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Okay. Unanimous. Okay, next item is the regular agenda. We only have one item, is to request approval of a proclamation declaring the month of September as Haywood County Preparedness Month 2025. Our Emergency Services Public Information Officer, Allison Richardman, is here to speak to that. Good morning, Allison. Appreciate you coming out.
Preparedness Month in various ways. We have shared preparedness information, taken part in community events, and this year, as we near the Helene one-year milestone, we want to take it a step further by encouraging the county to declare September Haywood County Preparedness Month and allow us to participate even further. In the past few years, we've been through a lot, haven't we? We've seen floods and fires and disasters of all types, but we've stuck through it and we've held in together. We have become more resilient, and that's what this is all about. With everything that we've been through, we've seen the importance of emergency preparedness. And as a county, we continue to try to improve little by little, doing things that help keep our communities safer, to help us to be more informed. We've celebrated just last month the beginning of the new siren warning system that has begun construction in Crusoe and in Bethel and moving down the river. So we're excited to see that progress. We have installed several new permanent emergency information stations throughout the county, and there are several more that are coming. We think we'll have a total of 9 of those information stations that will help people stay informed in the event that we have another disaster where we lose communication. There'll be permanent locations where people can come and get information about what's being done. All of this helps us stay better informed, helps us stay connected, and helps us to have that sense of community even when everything is going wrong. So this proclamation, forgive me, there's a lot of whereases, as you know, declares Haywood County Preparedness Month for the month of September 2025. Whereas all North Carolinians should be prepared for natural and man-made disasters as well as disease outbreaks, and whereas North Carolina is traditionally an active state for tornadoes and severe thunderstorms, with tornado touchdowns and straight-line winds causing severe damage in parts of the state this year, and whereas in 2024, the state experienced 37 tornadoes, 432 flood incidents, and 755 severe thunderstorms with damaging wind and hail. And whereas last year, the National Weather Service in North Carolina issued 181 tornado warnings, 641 severe thunderstorm warnings, 267 flash flood warnings, and whereas communities across the state have borne the impacts from wildfires, severe weather, damaging hail, high winds, and flooding, and whereas Haywood County experienced Hurricane Helene, which resulted in loss of life and substantial home, business, waterway, and infrastructure damage. And whereas every community, business, family, and individual in Haywood County must be ready for natural and man-made disasters, including tornadoes, flooding, hurricanes, and public disturbances that might disrupt normal daily activities. And whereas all Haywood County residents can take a few simple steps, making a family disaster plan, creating an emergency supply kit, owning a weather radio, and staying informed to help make preparedness and personal responsibility a priority. And whereas Haywood County residents should know the risks for their area and plan accordingly, and whereas Haywood County residents should help the elderly and those who cannot help themselves, and whereas Haywood County residents should include the safety of their pets and/or livestock in their emergency plans, and whereas Haywood County, North Carolina Emergency Management and the state of North Carolina have collaborated to recognize September as North Carolina Preparedness Month to encourage Haywood County residents to be disaster ready. Now, therefore, the Haywood County Commissioners do hereby proclaim the month of September 2025 as Preparedness Month in Haywood County and encourage all county residents to plan and prepare for weather-related and man-made disasters by assembling their emergency supply kits and updating their emergency plans. So there's a couple different events coming up. As Chairman mentioned, we have the anniversary coming up where there'll be some events people can come out to. At the Haywood County Fair, we'll also recognize the milestone of Helene and we'll be giving away emergency kits. There's an event on the 20th called the Day of Resilience where folks can come and get a free emergency kit for their family. So several opportunities over the next month for you to come out and improve your family's preparedness. So we encourage everyone to join us. Thank you.
Thank you, Allison. Okay, can I have a motion to approve the proclamation? Okay.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Okay, that's unanimous. Okay, we don't have appointments. We do have a closed session per North Carolina General Statute 143-381-11A6 to address personnel matters. So I'll entertain a motion to go into closed session.
Make a motion, we go into closed session.
Second?
Second.
Okay. All in favor say aye. Aye. Okay, we'll be in closed session when we go into the chambers in the back.